So, about the author. Now, Roald Dahl, who lived between 1916 to 90, and he was a British novelist, a short story writer, a fighter pilot, and a screenwriter. Widely recognized as one of the greatest storytellers for children of the 20th century, Dahl's books deal with fantasy and a make believe world and are a thrilling mixture of the grotesque and the comic. So he is bringing in an ugly picture also, and he is bringing in a lot of exaggeration and a comical side to it. Basically, because he feels that is how children will love what he writes about. So there were three of his books, that is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The BFG, and Matilda. These three books, which are the most popular amongst all his novels, have been made into films also. Besides, he has published more than a dozen collections of short stories. About his children's stories, he once said, I make my points by exaggerating wildly. That's the only way to get through to children because that is what they love. He received several awards, including the Edgar Allan Poe Award, World Fantasy Award for Life Achievement, Children's Author of the Year Award, and Millennium Children's Book Award in 2000. What this poem is about. The poem is called Television and is one of Roald Dahl's best known poems. Using his characteristic humor, Dahl criticizes children's addiction to television. The poem highlights the negative impact of television on young minds and warns that too much television can kill the imagination of children. Dahl also proposes reading books as a healthier alternative to watching television, advises parents to wean their children away from television if they want their children to grow up with healthy minds and healthy bodies. A healthy mind will lead to a healthy body because automatically your mind will work towards pushing you out to having a healthy body, towards exercise, towards having a good nutritious diet. Then he is confident that once children overcome their initial resistance and discover the pleasures of reading, they will thank their parents for introducing them to the world of imagination. All right, so let's get on to the reading of the poem, after which I will do the explanation. So, Television by Roald Dahl. The most important thing we've learned so far as children are concerned is never, never, never let them near your television set. Or better still, just don't install the idiotic thing at all. In almost every house we've watched them gaping at the screen. They loll and slop and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out. Last week, in someone's place, we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. They sit and stare and stare and sit until they're hypnotized by it, until they're absolutely drunk with all that shocking, ghastly junk. Oh, yes, we know it keeps them still. They don't climb out the window sill. They never fight or kick or punch. They leave you free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. But did you ever stop to think, to wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved tot? It rots the sense in the head. It kills the imagination dead. It clogs and clutters up the mind. It makes a child so dull and blind. He can no longer understand a fantasy, a fairyland. His brain becomes as soft as cheese. His powers of thinking rust and freeze. He cannot think, he only sees. All right, you'll cry, all right, you'll say. But if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain our darling children? Please explain. We'll answer this by asking you, what used the darling ones to do? How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? Have you forgotten? Don't you know? We'll say it very loud and slow. They used to read. They'd read and read and read and read, and then proceed to read some more. Great Scott, gadzooks! To one half their lives was reading books. The nursery shelves held books galore, books cluttered up the nursery floor. And in the bedroom, by the bed, more books were waiting to be read. Such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens, and whales, and treasure isles and distant shores where smugglers rowed with muffled oars, and pirates wearing purple pants, and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pot, stirring away at something hot. Oh, books, what books they used to know, those children living long ago. So please, oh please, we beg and we pray, go throw your TV set away, and in its place you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. They fill the shelves with lots of books, ignoring all the dirty looks, the screams and yells, the bites and kicks, and children hitting you with sticks. Fear not, because we promise you that in about a week or two of having nothing else to do, they'll now begin to feel the need of having something to read. And once they start, oh boy, you watch the slowly growing joy that fills their hearts. They'll grow so keen they'll wonder what they'd ever seen in that ridiculous machine, that nauseating, foul, unclean, repulsive television screen. And later, each and every kid will love you more for what you did. I think this is a very self explanatory poem. I will just go through this once and see if I need to explain somewhere. Now, the most important thing we've learned so far as children are concerned is never, never, never let them near your television set, because there are certain repercussions to it, some results, some consequences, some bad consequences that we need to avoid in certain circumstances. The most important thing is that based on what we have observed, we have studied, is that children are getting hooked onto the television and they are losing out on some things, most important things in life. So we suggest that never let them near the television set, or better still, just don't buy one and don't install one in your house. Don't install that idiot box in the house, because the reason why it is called the idiot box is because it is something that will only make your imagination go to sleep or kill it forever, and you will only become lazier, you will become physically as well as mentally inactive. So, in almost every house we've been, we've watched them gaping at the screen. This is a kind of survey that Roald Dahl and his partners, his companions, his teammates made. They went to different houses to see what the situation was, and he saw that in every house it was the same kind of situation, that they had these children, their kids, who were only looking at the screen, they were staring into the screen, doing nothing else. And as and when you become a little more, you're watching TV continuously, after about half an hour to 45 minutes, maximum after an hour, you will find that your mind is kind of going to sleep, and you will try and find more comfortable positions where you can just lie down, get into a comfortable place on the couch or maybe on the floor, on the carpet, and you will kind of just fall asleep, your mind will fall asleep. So they loll and slop and lounge about, they laze around and stare until their eyes pop out. A kind of exaggeration, a kind of example that he wants to highlight to the parents what the situation is today, how the children are becoming. Their eyes are also getting affected because they are continuously viewing the screen, which should not be the case. The more they stare at the screen, the more their eyesight will also get bad. and it will be so bad that they will ultimately have a lot of problem with their eyesight. Now, last week in someone's place, we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. Another exaggeration where he's just trying to show the parents what the situation is getting. It is getting worse, and we need to put a stop to this habit of the children at some point of time, and sooner the better. So he says that he visited one of these houses last week and these children were sprawled on the floor. And when you talk about dozen eyeballs, it could actually just mean that there were just two or three children there. But he is just trying to exaggerate. He's saying that these eyeballs were rolling on the floor. Whereas he actually just means to say that these kids were just sprawled out on the floor in front of them. The TV was playing and they were continuously staring at that, not even blinking an eye, and their eyes were absolutely dry. When their eyes get dry, automatically it starts affecting their eyesight. And very soon they will need specs to wear. So he is just trying to bring focus onto that and just try to tell the parents, draw the attention of the parents that each little example that he is giving here, he's trying to tell the parents, get your children away from the television sets. So these kids, they just sit and stare and sit until they are hypnotized by it, until they are absolutely drunk with all that shocking, ghastly junk. So often, I have witnessed my own children watching serials which don't have any meaning to them. Just because somebody else is watching that serial, that there is something playing on the screen, they just want to continuously sit and watch something. They are just glued to it, they get hooked onto it, and they are watching all the nonsense that is there on the screen. It could even be some kind of those Sas Bahu sagas that are there continuously on the TV, where some kind of scheming is going on. It is not the age for children to go through all those things, to see all that, because they are killing their imagination. They kind of start living in a world like that. And it is not only the children, sometimes even the adults get affected by these things. They also start, cooking up things like that, living in that kind of world, which is just not good, because ultimately they are just making themselves lazy, they are not active in any way, and they are losing out on so many other things in life. Okay, so yes, we know it keeps them still. They don't climb out the windowsill, they never fight or kick or punch. They leave you free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. Now, here he is directly addressing the parents. He says, no doubt you are right that they will be still. They will not, jump around. They will not create a nuisance. They will not disturb you. When we are talking about a foreign country, generally it is both the parents who pitch in to do the housework. The husband as well as the wife, they work together, they finish the work in the house. So he is just addressing the parents, he is telling them that there is no doubt these children will be still, they will not disturb you, they will not fight around, and you will not, be disturbed in between and try to sort out the problems that are there between them. They will not fight, they will just sit quietly. You can finish your work in peace. You can cook your lunch, you can complete whatever household chores are there, including washing the dishes in the sink. But did you ever stop to think, to wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved tot? What is the effect on your child, on the little one? How is it affecting? I mean, you are going through a daily routine, you are doing all your work, you are completing the work that is there in the house. But did you ever stop and think how it is affecting the child? Now, here he has exaggerated these lines, he has made them in bold and capitals because he wants to focus on the problems that are being created because of continuous watching of television by the children. He says it rots the sense in the head, it kills imagination dead, it clogs and clutters up the mind, it makes a child so dull and blind. He can no longer understand a fantasy, a fairyland. Now, He says, the poet says that it is killing the imagination. He is using different words, different expressions to show that the imagination is completely dead in the mind. The child is not able to create, to analyze, to do anything except to watch what is there on the screen. It is clogging and cluttering up the mind. It is filling the mind with lot of junk, lot of mush which is not required for the child of that age. It makes the child so dull and blind. He is unaware of what is happening around him. He is living in a different kind of world, and he cannot differentiate so many things in real life. Besides, he cannot understand a fantasy, a fairyland. He cannot understand the difference between what is happening on screen, what is happening in real life. His brain becomes as soft as cheese. He is not able to be strong. He has become very weak and dull. His powers of thinking rust and freeze. When we need to be alert, we need to be vigilant, we need to have our presence of mind to be able to make decisions quickly, to solve problems in our life. We need a good, strong imagination, a creative sense of self, and that comes only when our imagination is alive. So, because of all these problems, because of watching television, our mind has gone to sleep, it has becoming rusted, and it has frozen wherever it is. He cannot think, he only sees. Now, when he is saying these words, he cannot think, he only sees. This is a very scientific thing, it has a very scientific base behind it. There is a difference between only seeing something and observing and understanding something. You are looking through your eyes, but ultimately you are analyzing through your brain. But when the brain has become mushy, it has become like cheese, it has frozen and it has become rusted. It is dull, absolutely. And you are not able to even understand what is happening. You are looking through things and not able to see what is actually there. Now, for example, if I have two, three books in front of me, I'm only seeing it, but I'm not registering in my brain that those three books are there. After a few minutes, I will just forget that I saw those books lying there, and I may probably just keep looking around for them. But if I have that observation power, I have that thing of keeping it in my mind to understand, to notice, and remember to pay attention to what is there in front of me, what is being said to me, what is the action that is being done in front of me, what is happening around me, then I will remember. And that is what is needed. So, what happens is because of watching television continuously, we are completely killing that self of ourselves, that side of ourselves. All right, you'll cry. All right, you'll say. But if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain our darling children? Please explain. So, this he's saying on behalf of the parents. They are questioning as to what will happen. Supposing we want to entertain our children, how do we do that? Because everybody needs some kind of entertainment. So you tell us the solution. If you want us to take away the television, how do you expect us to keep them entertained? We answer this by asking you, what used the darling ones to do? How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? So now he is coming back to himself and answering this question for the parents. He says, fine, you are asking this question. No doubt this is a very big question which you need to be solved. How are we going to do this? But just try to remember how what we did in the past. Have you forgotten? Don't you know? We'll say it very loud and slow. They used to read. They'd read and read and read and read and then proceed to read some more. Don't you remember what it was during that time? Have you forgotten your own childhood? What did you do before the invention of this idiot box? We used to read so many books. Whatever we used to get, whatever we could get into our hands, we used to read those books. And once that book was over, we would go and get some other book for ourselves. Great Scott, gadzooks. This is just an exclamation, an expression of surprise. One half their lives was reading books. The nursery shelves held books galore, books cluttered up the nursery floor, and in the bedroom by the bed, more books were waiting to be read. This was one activity that we were all involved in. We used to love to read, and there were so many different kinds of books. Most of the time, we had mystery books, we had books that spoke about fantasies, about fairies, about fairylands, how they lived, what they did. They also had very similar lives like we used to have. And these stories explained how things were. So, what were these about? They were such wondrous, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens, and whales, of treasure isles and distant shores where smugglers rowed with muffled oars, and pirates wearing purple pants, and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pot, stirring away at something hot. Different stories, different characters, different lands, different places. There could be dragons, there could be gypsies, queens, it could be about whales, it could be about a treasure island, and there could be different shores where they were far away. And people would sail to such places, mostly these pirates and smugglers who knew or who had heard about treasures on different lands, and they would go and search and seek those treasures, those hidden treasures. And most of the pirates used to wear purple pants and pink pants. That was how there was a kind of exaggeration about their characters because they were very different from the regular normal people. They lived a very different life, their character was very different, so they needed to be depicted in a different way. And when the author talks about these things, we are able to visualize, to bring into our mind's eye how it was at that time, what the situation was in the book. He also talks about sailing ships of elephants, and generally, when we're talking about pirates wearing purple pants and sailing ships and elephants, just to rhyme pants and elephants, he would rhyme it as pants and elephants. Then there were cannibals crouching round the pot. Cannibals are people, human beings who eat other human being flesh. So they are crouching around the pot. They're sitting around the pot and cooking something in there. They're stirring something hot. And generally, when we're talking about cannibals, it is just our imagination that takes us to that place where they have found another human being and they are cooking. They have cut him into pieces and they are cooking him in the pot. Okay, let's continue with this. So, oh, books, what books they used to know, those children living long ago. Now, it is a kind of era that seems to have been gone a very long time ago. It seems that there is a very long gap between that generation that used to read books and the generation that is now that is hooked onto television. So please, oh please, we beg, we pray, go throw your TV set away, and in its place you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. So ultimately, now the poet is giving a solution. He is telling the parents, why don't you just, we are begging you, we are praying to you, we request you, throw away the TV set that you have installed in your house. And instead, why don't you just bring a beautiful bookshelf, something which is very attractive, something that you can fill with books, and fill so many books in it that the child will not get bored. Just remember, you have to ignore all the dirty looks that the children are giving to you when they see, because obviously you have the upper hand at that point of time. Children are too young to take decisions. You are the one who has to take that decision. Take a decision where you will be able to throw that bookshelf out of your house, the TV out of your house, install the bookshelf, fill it with beautiful books, imaginative books, and of course, the children will give you dirty looks. They will stare at you. They will glare at you. They will scream and yell at you. They might bite and kick you. That is how sometimes children bring out their frustration. They bite, they kick, they scream, they yell, they are throwing out their frustration at you. They may even hit you with sticks. But fear not, don't be afraid, because we promise you that in about a week or two of nothing, having nothing else to do, they will begin to feel the need of having something to read. They are getting bored, they don't know what to do, how to kill their time, how to spend their time. So, automatically, one by one, the colors on the bookshelf will look a little attractive to them. Maybe not as attractive as the moving images on the screen that they had on television, but maybe the colorful books, the cover pages of the books will try and attract them, and they will move towards those that bookshelf. They will pick up a book and they will start reading. And after that, you will watch the slowly growing joy that fills their heart. They'll grow so keen they'll wonder what they had ever seen in that ridiculous machine. So once they start reading, automatically, that when they start bringing their imagination alive, their hearts will be filled with joy. They will become so engrossed, so interested in reading, they will go back to thinking and wondering, and they will be shocked at their own thoughts that why, what had they ever seen in that machine, that ridiculous, stupid, silly machine that is very nauseating and it is so unclean, that repulsive television screen. What did they ever see? What was so attractive about that? And later, each and every kid will love you more for what you did. When the imagination comes alive, there is a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts that come to the child's mind. He will start questioning. He will come to you, approach you for answers. And at that point of time, you are expected to give the answers and form a better bond with your children. And automatically, when that bond forms, there is more love between you and the child. So, this is what is going to happen when the child will start reading, the child will imagining and questioning what you have, what he has